How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Armchair Analysis here on YouTube. Hope you guys are having a fantastic week so far. Had a fantastic week. It's Friday, getting ready to go into the weekend. Again, I say this every time, and you can listen to me, you cannot listen to me. I mean, I am just an idiot on the internet. However, stay safe. Be responsible. Don't drink and drive. Um, and just have a good time this weekend. We got a lot of cool stuff going on, and I'm excited. We got a handful of things to talk about today. MLB update. We've got NBA playoffs update, which is going to be interesting. We got some game ones that are going to happen this weekend leading into next week's action. We've got NHL playoff update, and then I have a channel update for you guys. I'm going to do these kind of in the first video of the month, specifically in the first recap video, the first Monday or Friday video of the month, and just kind of give you guys a little bit of a hey, this is where we're at, this is what's going to happen. And especially if I have something to share like I do today, please stick around to the end. If you feel so inclined, it would be greatly appreciated. Stick around to the end and tune in to this, because it's some news that you're not going to want to miss, especially if you're a college football fan. So with that said, let's get into the news this week and the on-field action that we saw in the last week. I'm going to start with the NBA playoffs because we have a Game 6 and a Game 7 to happen this weekend. Super excited for both of those. But we're going to talk about what we've seen and what is over so far. Cleveland and Oklahoma City both swept. The 2-1 seeds sweep their series with Miami and Memphis, respectively. They move on to the second round. And as for the rest of the Eastern Conference, Boston wins the series over Orlando in 5. The Knicks win Game 6 to clinch their series over the Detroit Pistons, which was a really interesting, a chippy series. It was really fun. And I'm excited because that sets up Boston versus New York for a chance at the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the Pacers just absolutely demolished Milwaukee, and it wasn't necessarily a competitive series from the beginning, but Damian Lillard coming back and then getting hurt once again, I think plays a little bit of a factor into it. There's some other stuff from the series we'll talk about later on, but for right now, that's where we stand in the Eastern Conference. So we'll have the Cavs and Pacers in an opportunity, kind of a budding, a reviving rivalry, I guess. If you look back at the Paul George and LeBron James days, and this, again, I'll call it a rivalry at least. It seemed like these two teams played pretty consistently year in, year out in the mid-2010s. So I'm excited to see this back and two teams who are genuine contenders. And then again, Boston and New York, I'm excited for that. I mean, that's a heated rivalry in itself. It's going to be chippy. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. This Eastern Conference semifinals is going to be two fantastic series. As for the Western Conference, the Minnesota Timberwolves take the series over the Lakers in 5. So Shannon was right. Lakers in 5. They're just out in 5. The Golden State Warriors are currently up 3-2 on the Houston Rockets. They play tonight in Game 6 with the Warriors in position to clinch on home court. The Denver Nuggets have their home court advantage tomorrow, Game 7, against the LA Clippers. That's going to be exciting. I can't wait. The Clippers have been much more competitive in this series than I think I expected them to be. And granted, I should have gave them more credit. I think the Nuggets are missing Mike Malone. I think that the talent is there to call them the better team. However, the Clippers are just doing enough, and they're kind of just playing together enough to keep this interesting. I would not be surprised if the Clippers take it. I'm taking Denver to win in 7. I'm also taking the Warriors to clinch the series later tonight. Earlier this week, we saw the series clinching game where Tyrese Halliburton took over the end of the game against the Milwaukee Bucks in a 119-118 finish in overtime, which then led to Tyrese Halliburton's dad and Giannis getting into it on the court post-game. And it begs a question that's been interesting for the NBA for a while now, which is, are fans too comfortable are non-team personnel too comfortable in these games to where they feel like they can talk to people however they want and they can do whatever they want and get away with whatever they want? I'm not opposed to players' family having that privilege to be on the court, but I'm also not opposed to that privilege being taken away in a moment's notice if you act out and cause a scene and cause something that really shouldn't be there. I mean, you're talking a guy who is faced with defeat and who doesn't like to lose. We know Giannis doesn't like to lose. Faced with defeat in what was probably the worst series that he's been a part of as a Milwaukee Buck. And you're going to go and taunt him on the middle of the court and all this stuff, and then try to have this victim card about you. Oh, hey, I'm not an NBA player. I'm not the professional, after the fact. It's just ridiculous. I thought Tyrese Halliburton addressed it well. I mean, he straight up said, hey, look, I don't condone what my dad did, and I'm going to talk to Giannis about it. And I respect Halliburton a lot. I think Tyrese is a budding star, or I think we can now say that he is a true star in the game. But, we see this in professional sports all the time where family members kind of ruin the perspective of a player. And I don't want to see this happen to Halliburton because, again, I think he's an amazing player. I think he's so good for the game. I just don't want to see this overshadow the success and the true talent that Tyrese has and can put on the court on a night-in, night-out basis. I'm excited. I think Halliburton's dad I think he should be allowed to be at the games, should not be allowed on the court going forward for the rest of the postseason. It's just frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. We see all these NBA players get into it with fans and now other players, family members. And it's just, there comes a point where, these are humans too. It's the same thing I said with Jaren Duran earlier this week, with the guy telling Jaren Duran what they said in Cleveland. I'm not going to give this guy the time of my day to repeat all of it. But, that whole thing happened in Cleveland last week, and my exact statement's the same. These guys are people too. These guys have human emotions, human feelings, and they are allowed to react accordingly, especially if it's fit. I mean, look, if you're just acting out for no reason, it's a whole nother thing. But when you're being kind of provoked into these fights and these confrontations, I think that there should be a fair game situation implied where, hey, you know what, if you're being stupid, for lack of a better term, whatever happens to you is on you at the end of the day. I mean, that's what we have at baseball games. I mean, by buying a ticket, you're liable for line drives that could hit you and the potential, unfortunately, which what happened in Pittsburgh, which is tragic, and I'm certainly praying for the individual. But you're liable for the things that could happen to you in the moment. And I think that's one of those spots too. We've seen Russell Westbrook get into it with fans. We've seen Marcus Smart get into it with fans, both in college and in the NBA. Like, these things happen. It's heat of the moment, and you're getting guys who are super competitive. And it just, you're playing an interesting game. I think a very bold game to try to provoke these guys into an argument. That's all I really have to say on that. I'm not going to get too far or further into it. But the NBA playoffs have been interesting. They have been fun, and I'm certainly tuning into Game 7 with Denver and LA, but I'm also going to tune into this Game 6 tonight. Warriors and Rockets. I'm super excited to see if Golden State can close it out again. I mean, the Western Conference was so close this year beyond the 1 seed. Anything can happen on any given night here. And I think we're getting to see that full firsthand here tonight and this week with the first round. Moving on to the NHL. We'll go with the Eastern Conference. All those series have been completed at this point. Toronto took it in 6 over Ottawa. And then the other 3, Florida, Washington, and Carolina, all win their series in 5 over Tampa Bay, Montreal, and New Jersey, respectively. I'm super pumped for the second round of these playoffs. Toronto and Florida is going to be an absolute brawl of a series. I can't wait. And both these teams are coming off of emotional rivalry wins in the playoffs. It does mean something. It will carry these emotions over into the second round. And the team that can kind of collect them, get themselves in check, and move forward is going to be incredible. The biggest key in that series, I think, is going to be Stolarz for Toronto. If the Leafs can have that kind of goalie performance for another 6 or 7 games, Leafs are going to the Eastern Conference Finals, without question. Florida's got Sergei Bobrovsky. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of his. I have been since he was in Columbus. But I just think that Stolarz this year has been so much better, more consistent. And he stood on his head a handful of times in that Ottawa series, just as Linus Ullmark did. I should not go unnoticed what Ullmark was able to do and how well he did to keep Ottawa in the games that they were in. That's going to be interesting. And then Washington and Carolina, that's going to be a fun series too. I mean, I talked about it in the playoff preview that I did, that I think this is going to be an absolute blast, but I just like Carolina, and the way they performed on the power play is the biggest reason that I like them to continue to move forward here. The biggest thing that's hindered them in the playoffs and really in the regular season as a whole over the last few years has been power play productivity. They've not been able to capitalize on the opportunities when they're presented. I think they're going to be able to capitalize here in this series against Washington. I like the Canes here. I think both these series have potential to go 7. I'd see no less than 6 for either of those two conference semifinals in the East. As for the West, the Pacific side of the bracket is solved. Vegas and Edmonton both capture their series in 6 over Minnesota and LA Kings, respectively. The Oilers have the Kings number. The Kings have been knocked out by Edmonton for the last 4 years now, if I'm not mistaken. The last 4 years. I could be wrong, so correct me in the comments if I am. But it's just so interesting how this has played out. Minnesota gave Vegas all they could want. Edmonton seemed like they didn't have momentum. I mean, they were down in the series to the Kings and then stormed back, winning 4 straight. Vegas and Edmonton, that's going to be a blast. I lean Vegas here. I think Vegas is a better team. They've been more consistent, and I think Aiden Hill in net is going to be the biggest key to Vegas moving forward and going to the Western Conference Finals. Who will they face out of the Central side? Hard to say. Winnipeg and St. Louis is going to Game 6. That game is tonight at 6 p.m. So after that game's starting, probably by the time you see this. I'm excited for that one. I think there's a lot of potential here for St. Louis to maybe get another one, take this thing back up to Winnipeg. I'm going to take Winnipeg to close it out in 6 here tonight. I just think they're the better team. They're getting Nikolai Ehlers back. I'm taking the Jets to move forward here. And then Dallas and Colorado, Game 7 tomorrow night. In Dallas, we saw a little bit of an explosion offensively from the Stars a couple nights ago, putting up 6 goals. I'm taking Dallas to move forward in Game 7 just simply because this is at home. This is in their house. Dallas wants to move on, and I think it's going to be important whether or not they get Miro Heiskanen back. If Heiskanen comes back, this is going to be... I'm all in on Dallas. If he doesn't, it's a little more iffy. I'm just taking the Stars again, home ice advantage going on there tomorrow. Is there a reason to be concerned? I think a lot of Dallas fans are concerned, but I think that everybody's concerned. If you're a fan of either team in this game tomorrow, you are concerned no matter how you look at it. It's going to be an exciting matchup to see how that series closes out. I'm taking Winnipeg and Dallas as I did in the playoff preview, though, for the second round matchup. Moving on to the MLB the last few days, and we only had one interleague matchup, and that was Milwaukee versus the Chicago White Sox. The Brewers took 2 out of 3 there. In the American League, we had Toronto take 2 out of 3 over Boston. we'll talk a little more about that here in a minute. Baltimore takes 2 out of 3 over the Yankees. The Athletics take 3 out of 4 over Texas, which is part of a whole different story. The A's are 7-3 in their last 10 games, and on top of that, they're 5-2 against Texas in their last 7 games. Those games in the last 2 weeks. The Athletics, with no city affiliation, are looking like they could be a contender in the AL West. How long is this going to hold up? How long is this going to last? I don't know the answer to that. I don't truly believe that there is a... I don't believe that the A's are a playoff team. However, the AL West has looked a little rough early in the first month, and I'm going to be recapping the first month. Probably Saturday or Sunday you'll see a video. One of the few weekend videos I'm going to have going forward, but I do want to get that one out and put in. It just kind of, the end of the month came at an interesting time for me that I couldn't get a video out immediately. We'll talk about the A's and kind of where I think that's going to go and where I think the AL West goes from here. Cleveland takes 3 out of 4 over the Minnesota Twins. The Astros take 2 out of 3 over the Tigers. The Royals sweep the Rays in 3, and the Seattle Mariners take the 2-game series 2-0 over the LA Angels. For the National League, we got the Diamondbacks taking 2 out of 3 over the Mets. The Braves take 2 out of 3 over the Rockies. The Cubs take 2 of 3 over Pittsburgh. Again, thoughts with anybody impacted by the situation in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to look up and find this guy's name. I saw it the other day. I apologize. I didn't commit it to memory. But it's a tragic situation that transpired in Pittsburgh, honestly. I mean, it's a freak accident that you don't want to see, and, you know, you never want to see anybody hurt. I know this kid's still fighting for his life as far as I've last seen. It's just a shame, you know, and you can think what you want about the situation. I will stop and talk about this. You can think what you want about the situation. You know, a lot of people in this world would not want their worst day, you know, their actions upon their worst day to be what defines who they are as a person. And I think that this kid's the same way. He's a college football player, I believe D3 player, but it doesn't really matter. You know, if you're playing college ball, you're playing college ball. And, you know, he was getting ready to start his family, just moved into a new house. He was doing a lot of really good things in his life from everything I found about this kid. And, you know, the actions that happen on, again, your worst day, you know, when you go out drinking, you're celebrating with the boys, you're hanging out and enjoying a baseball game, you know, and one true loss of balance and mistaken judgment, whether impaired or not, you know, ruins your life potentially, or could even take his life. I mean, we don't know that he's going to get out of this. And, you know, I've seen a lot of people talking mass amounts of shit about this guy. And does it mean anything to me personally? No. Other than the fact that I just want everybody to be okay. You know, everybody deserves a level of success and happiness in their life, and that level is really dependent upon themselves. You know, what does that person want? And as long as you go and accomplish what you want, then great. And, you know, unfortunately, this guy made a bad choice. One bad choice in his life, again, potentially ruins it. We don't know him, and we don't know where he comes from and what his life's been like or anything like that. So all the judgment and all the hatred and just poor taste comments that I've seen are just, it's disappointing as a sports fan. You know, I don't care if we're fans of the Pirates. I don't care if we're fans of the Cubs. I don't care who we're a fan of in this sport. The ultimate thing it comes down to is just being a good person, being the person that you would want, you know, your family to look at and say, and even, you know, be willing to claim you, you know. And so a lot of these comments are just baffling to me, you know, of he deserved it and he's just a drunk and all these things. Like, we don't know, you don't know anything about these people. And I know I'm probably talking to a brick wall with some who may participate in these types of things, but we just don't know anything about some of these people. And again, we make these judgments based off of the worst day of their lives. Yet we have no ground to stand on, or no true level of morals to stand on. I mean, some of us have done the same thing. Some of us have gone and been way too drunk and done something stupid, um and paid our own consequences, whatever they may be. So it's a shame, because I think a lot of people who are doing this are so much better than that, and there's some that just aren't. There's some people that are just have that poor character, but um, it's just a shame, and I'm really thinking of this kid, and hoping that he pulls through and makes it out of the hospital, at least with minor effect to his daily life. To clarify, as I told you guys, I would find his name and tell you, is Kevon Markwood. And again, Kevon, I'm speaking to you personally. Not that you'll ever see this, but I am speaking to you personally. My thoughts are with you, and I hope that everything comes out in a way that, again, is minimally effective to your daily life going forward. Again, your actions on one day do not define who you are, and I hope that once you are able to move forward from it, it doesn't affect you or hang with you, in the way that people have spoke about you. So it's just a shame, and again, I'm really hoping that this kid pulls through, and we get some good news here eventually about that. Moving on, Cincinnati and St. Louis split 4-game series. It was fun. We had one postponement. They had a doubleheader. I believe it was on Wednesday. I'm impressed with the Reds. I think they have a really solid foundation. They're missing a few things, but they've got a pretty decent, again, foundation for what they want to do going forward. Excited to kind of look into, again, the standings here, and talk about some of the things I'm really liking over the first month. The Dodgers take all 3 of their series with Miami. I think the Dodgers are just that good. Yes, the Marlins are going to come back down to earth at some point, and it's probably starting that now. Excuse me. Wow, what a time for that hiccup. Miami is that good. Well, they're not that good. They are a decent team who have played above their level for the first month. Coming back down to earth, the Dodgers certainly pointed out a handful of flaws there. But again, the Dodgers are also that good. I mean, there's a reason that they are the best team in baseball. They're the defending champs, and they're likely they are the favorites to do it again, just ahead of the Mets. So, I don't know. I'm not overreacting to Miami getting their asses handed to them all week, but what I am going to say is that the Dodgers are that good. Let's see how Miami carries and bounces back, because that's a shot to your confidence. When you get your ass kicked for 3 games straight, it kind of kicks you in the groin a little bit. That, hey, are we as good as we've been playing, or is this what we really are? And you have to determine your identity quick, and especially in a 162 game season, you got to really figure out how quick you want to determine who you are. Philly took 2 out of 3 over the Nats, and Padres take their 2-game set against San Francisco. Again, 2-0. The other storyline here, I wanted to talk about Boston. 2 blown leads, and I mean, they were horrendous. They were up 6-0 at one point in their game on Wednesday, and blew that, lost 7-6 in the bottom of the 10th. And then last night, a 2-0 lead when Tanner Houck goes out of the game after pitching a gem. I mean, he was dealing. 1 run allowed at the time, and they go into the 8th inning, and Greg Weissert comes in, and it's game over from there. It give up 3, and they lose 3-2. It's just, or 4-2, sorry. But it's kind of been this growing theme the last couple of years where one, Toronto has terrorized Boston over the last couple of years. I'm not sure what it is about the Jays, but for whatever reason, the Sox can't get past them. But it's so frustrating to sit back and watch this team. It's 6-0. 6-0. You should never blow that lead when you're up by that much after the sixth inning. And, once in a while it happens, but 2 nights in a row to blow a multi-run lead is just kind of embarrassing, especially to happen after, in the sixth or later, and even the 2-run lead in the seventh or later. It's just a shame that it's happening that way, because this can be kind of like we just talked about for Miami, right? Like that's a confidence killer to lose 2 games like that. Like, man, we were up that much and we couldn't win the game. I mean, going into this series, they were 11-2 in games where they scored first. And when I'm talking about 11-2, I'm talking about the Red Sox 11-2 in 2025 when scoring the first run in the game. Well, they're now 12-4. And yeah, that's not a terrible record, but it's frustrating when you see how those 2 games were lost. Am I panicking? No, I'm not, because I think that these things are all things that can bounce back. Lucas Giolito, I think, just got left out there a little too long in his return and got hit around in that 6th inning, and that kind of started the rally for the Jays. As for the other, they just saw Greg Weissert good last night, and there's not much you can do about that. Some nights that just happens. Again, it's just happening back-to-back nights. You can't have that. So we'll see how they bounce back. They play Minnesota tonight here, and just over an hour from when I'm recording this. Again, you'll probably see it about a half hour, maybe even right on time for the start of this game. So we'll see if they can bounce back. They're back in Fenway this week. It'll be interesting. So now that we're 30 minutes in, let me talk to you guys about the future of this channel and kind of what I have determined this to be. So Armchair Analysis is 100% an all sports show. I like talking about everything. I like talking about baseball. I like talking about basketball. And during the regular season, especially for basketball, I'm probably not going to be as in-depth as I normally am. I will talk about the big hot button topics, but you won't really see the same level of coming at it, I guess, as I am here for the playoffs. Same thing with the NHL. It's really hard to keep up with 82 games, and it's different than baseball where you're playing a 3-game series, and Monday and Friday is the perfect place to kind of hit your recaps of each series. Whereas, going into the NBA, the NHL, like all these games happen at different times, and it's hard to kind of keep up with every little thing that happens. Harder to scoreboard watch, I guess, than it is with baseball. So with that said, you're not going to see as much NHL and NBA content during the regular season. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to be harder into college basketball content than I am anything else during the regular season of college basketball. Leading up to the NCAA tournament this year, I found a bit of a passion for that. It's not like a huge, like I'm going to be doing that full time, no. But this is going to transition into more of a college football centric show where you're going to see. So let me lay out the schedule for you here a little bit, as what it's going to look like in my opinion, and the way I would like it to be. Monday through Friday, Monday and Friday, you're going to see your recap videos the same way you're seeing right now. The same one you just watched is what you're going to see Monday and Friday. That's where I'm going to talk about hot button topics in any other sport that's not college football. Why am I going to do it that way? It's pretty simple. It's just because it fits best for MLB, which I really like to talk about and I really like to watch and pay close attention to. So it fits that schedule really well. But it also works best to kind of preview a weekend, of NFL or preview a weekend of NBA games or NHL games, kind of pick up my game of the week that you got to watch in both. And that's going to kind of work out in its own way through the course of the year and how I can figure out exactly what I want the layout to look like. And there could come a point where I say, hey, maybe we just transition to college football only, or maybe I transition to just football only, or football mainly, and it becomes NFL Friday, NFL Monday, and I'm just simply talking NFL during football season. And then when football season's over, or at least the playing season's over, I can transition and talk about the other things I really want to talk about too, to include baseball and all that stuff. But what is 100% going to be the case is Tuesday through Thursday, college football specific. Now, there could be double uploads, and I could throw a different topic in there, of course. The videos I've done in the past, the NBA issues, that the coaching video that I did to open this channel back up, whether it's playoff previews, or just random videos of whatever topic I feel the need to talk on or speak on. Those will happen. Anyways, those will happen as they can, and it'll be kind of double uploaded. It'll be nestled into the schedule here. But Tuesday through Thursday is college football only. Unless there's big news, and when there's big news, the college football stuff will be its own thing. It will be its own video, separate from the Monday, Friday stuff, separate from everything. It's its own thing. Still Armchair Analysis. It's just, I want them to be separate, because there's some, like, college football is like 100% heart, passion project. The other stuff is a passion project in itself. However, there's just a different level to it. I like to go more in depth on college football. I like to dig deeper into things than most. So I would like to give myself the time to not make a video that's an hour and a half long, because that can be a little frustrating. That can be a little tough to watch sometimes. And I know that, and I understand that. During the college football playing season, Sundays will be college football Saturday recap. I'm going to talk about everything that I can manage to talk about, everything that I can fit into about an hour window. Those may even be live. I don't know for sure. It depends on what my work schedule is, because again, I'm doing all this stuff while working a full-time job, and it can be a little tough sometimes. If I'm being completely honest, it can be a little rough to rough around the edges to find what we need to find and do what we need to do. So, there's just a handful of things there that will happen on their own time and as they're meant to happen. But what I can tell you is that starting on June 17th, so a month and a half from now that does not mean that the college football content doesn't start until June 17th. But on June 17th, I will start team previews, and I will do team previews for every single Power 5 team leading up to August 23rd. On August 23rd is week 0. We're going to watch those games. Nobody ever takes anything from week 0 games. The most we could take is Farmageddon over in Farmageddon in Ireland, between Kansas State and Iowa State. That's probably the biggest game we can take anything away from. It's not really going to change my season predictions at that point, I don't think. If it does, then I probably shouldn't be doing this. So what we'll do is the following week will be a Monday through Friday, specifically about conference previews, where I show you guys my schedule predictions, my end of season record predictions. I'll also have a Heisman video up at some point, predicting who I think is going to win the Heisman. I'll do all those things as time goes forward, but it will just be kind of in its own due time, and how it seems, again, to fit into the schedule and what I can do. So I like to do these, and I think I'm going to like to do these, again, at the beginning of every month, kind of just lay out where we're at, lay out how things are going to look the next month, and over time. The Red Sox documentary, by the way, the review for the Red Sox documentary is going to happen as well. That is going to be probably sometime next week, if I were to guess. I don't have a guarantee as for when or how that's gonna come out, but I am gonna review that because I finally finished it first off. Um, but I do have just some interesting things to say. Again, as a fan, as somebody who really wanted to watch this as a Red Sox fan, and not so much just because it was something new to watch. I have a lot of things that I want to say on it. I don't know if they're particularly, they're all original. I mean, they all come from my own head, but I don't know that they're particularly groundbreaking opinions, but they might be. Who knows? If you want to tune in, feel free. We'll kind of see. I'll do a couple little review videos on different things, whether that's books, TV shows, stuff like that. But with all those things said and completed here, I don't have anything else today. But next week begins a new look and not a new look, a new format for the channel. So again, Monday and Friday will be your weekly kind of every sport recap. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, college football strictly all throughout the week. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in and wanting to be here. If you stayed this long, and if you're interested in the future of how everything's going to look, I encourage you to leave a like, subscribe, hit the little notification button. All that means a lot. It helps me out tremendously, and yeah, it's greatly appreciated. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and all the support in the first month. On to May 2025. Y'all have a good one.